Hello, and welcome to today's session on the importance of AV in superyacht design. This session is to provide fundamental guidance to interior designers, shipyards, and other design professionals in the superyacht industry on audio systems, micro-LED screens, and the opportunities they offer in modern interiors and AV design. We will also discuss the importance of the technical consultant and the integrator, and why they should be engaged as soon as possible in a project. Before we start, let me just take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Chris Hogg, and I'm the European Business Manager for Luxury Living here at Samsung Electronics Europe. I've had over 25 years of experience in designing home cinemas and luxury AV systems into some of the most prestigious buildings in the world. During today's session, you will hear from myself about how micro-LED screens are changing the opportunities for designers and shipbuilders in order to create unique experiences for owners and guests. You'll hear from Daniele Mochi of JEROEN about how sound impacts our lives and their approach to exceptional discrete audio. You'll hear from Zeb Robin from Bond Technology Management about the role of the consultant in the concept and delivery stages of a build or refit. And finally from Brian FAERBER and JEROEN DEKKER of VBH. Brian will talk about why it's important to engage an integrator early enough to ensure your design intent can be delivered. And JEROEN will discuss how important simple, intuitive control is to the user experience. We'll then follow up with a Q&A session with everybody that you've heard from. If you do have a question, then please type it into the chat box on the side of your screen, and we'll either answer it during the webinar or respond directly in the Q&A. I think it's important before we start to just touch on where AV has been traditionally considered in any yacht build. There have been two main areas: entertainment spaces and guest cabins. Entertainment spaces are usually a dedicated cinema space or a salon lounge where both audio and video is critical. External deck spaces tend to be more audio focused. However, there is still some call for video screens in these areas too. In guest cabins, guests expect to be able to access both video content and audio, and this can come from onboard sources or a dedicated streaming service such as Jetstreams. But more and more, people are starting to carry their content with them. It's either downloaded into a personal device or accessed via their own favourite subscribed service. They will stream this content via their device into the cabin. So good AV design needs to consider how a guest can best link their devices to the AV on board. But what we are seeing increasingly is that AV is now more than just providing entertainment to all on board. The new micro-LED screens from Samsung are enabling designers to create unique spaces and experiences. And increasingly, these visual experiences are being implemented with bespoke soundscapes, and they create fully immersive environments. So now I've mentioned sound, it'd be a great time to hand over to Daniele Mochi of JEROEN, who is going to discuss how sound impacts our lives. Over to you, Daniele.
Hi everyone, and thank you, Chris, for this brilliant introduction. As you said, the unforgettable experience that people are going to have on a yacht is highly influenced by the AV design and implementation. I've worked in JEROEN for 10 years, more or less, designing sound systems, and day after day I've become more and more aware of how much sound impacts our life experiences. And I can guarantee that it's impossible to have a luxury experience on a yacht if you are surrounded by bad sound. Instead, imagine you enter on this beautiful yacht and the nice soft music starts playing all around you so that you feel immersed in a sound field. You start relaxing and having a drink with your friends, and after a few minutes you are already kind of disconnected with the outside noisy and stressful world. And after a while you turn the music up and the real party starts, and when it's time to watch a movie, you turn the amazing Samsung screen on and the 5.1 surround sound system make you feel part of the action thanks to music and effect coming from all around you. And well, if, this sounds like a dream, very hard to achieve, that is mainly due to the misconception that a lot of big and intrusive speakers are necessary to obtain this sound experience. And that's why you often see the system integrator and the interior designer kind of arguing, right? The system integrator insists to position the speakers in the proper locations, but the interior designer doesn't want to compromise the beauty of the room with big intrusive speakers. And too often the end result is a compromise where you install just a few speakers in the ceiling, and the sound experience you get in the room is what I call the supermarket effect. Music comes from above your head, too loud when you are right below speakers, too weak when you are far from it, and I mean, how is that a luxury experience? But luckily, technology has evolved, and nowadays you can get a luxury sound experience without actually compromising the aesthetics of the room. In KRA, we have developed speakers which are so discreet that can really be integrated in the design of the room itself. Here you can see some Viper KV52 speakers mounted close to the screen to guarantee that sound comes from the mouths of the actors during the movie. And plus there are additional speakers located in the room to guarantee an immersive sound experience while watching a movie or listening to music. So here, as you can see, there are several speakers hidden all around. And we are talking about speakers which are just 4 centimeters wide and more or less 2 centimeters deep. So the space they take is minimum, and they are available in any color, with special finishes, everything to make them even more invisible than this. And actually today I want to show you an even more challenging room from a speaker positioning point of view. Here we are in Samsung, Italian headquarters in Milano, where they have this beautiful entertainment room where the wall screen is installed. And I mean, the quality of the video is astonishing, and the screen fits the room perfectly. But where do you position your speakers here? I mean, high sound pressure level is requested, but the LCD screen is not acoustically transparent, so there is no way to install the speakers behind it. But still, we want the sound to come from the screen. And so the solution was installing the KRA speakers within the frame of the screen itself. Let me zoom a bit, and you can see that there are 3 speakers per side as main left and right channels, and 2 speakers mounted in horizontal, one below and one above the screen as a center channel. And this configuration really helps to create the impression that sound comes right from the center of the screen. One speaker below, one speaker above, and you create this kind of phantom image in the center of the screen. And then there are, of course, the subwoofers and other speakers all around to create an immersive Atmos system, all powered by KRA amplifiers that I'm not going to explain in detail now. Okay. Anyway, this room is available for anyone to experience. So, in case you are interested in a demo, please, contact KRA or Samsung, and we will be happy to organize the demonstration. And of course, these kind of solutions are scalable. So, for example, in the master bedroom of a yacht, you still want a luxury sound experience with an immersive sound field, but the room being smaller, you can go with even more discrete speakers. Here you can see the KRA Lizard KZ14, which is a speaker just the size of a finger. And you add a little subwoofer under the bed, a little amplifier to drive the speakers, and the luxury sound experience is guaranteed with really a minimal visual impact. So, I know that I'm not sharing any technical detail about the speaker specification, wiring, impedances, etc. But today I just wanted to pass the message that in KRA we have a mission, right? And the mission is making the interior designer and the system integrator friends again. I'm joking, but really the idea is that in my opinion, the speakers should be part of the interior design project from the beginning, and they should not be perceived as an intrusive component, but actually like an indispensable ingredient to guarantee the luxury experience that people are expecting when they enter on a yacht. Of course, there are many other aspects to consider when we want to achieve this luxury experience, so I can't wait to hear the next speeches, and I'll be available at the end of the webinar to answer, of course, the questions you may have, but now the stage is yours, Chris, again. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Daniele. So, you can see how audio is important to the overall experience on board, and how KRA can help you design beautiful spaces. But the audio is only a part of the overall experience. Video is also critical in today's modern superyacht. And here at Samsung we have many solutions that can really help you to deliver the very best performance while keeping to your original design intent. The one thing that is really making the change to the way clients and designers are considering visual display, however, is our The Wall screen, which is part of our range of a new breed of micro-LED screens. For years, designers have been trying to find ways of hiding screens so they're not seen whilst being used. But this is changing, and products like Samsung's The Frame has made us reconsider using the screen as more than just a TV. However, the trend is now for much larger screens, and this trend is strongest in the luxury marine sector. It used to be that to get a large screen to watch a movie, you had to use a projector system. These have a number of issues, however. The main one being that, well, they've got to be in a darkened space, so getting a large screen into a salon or communal area was difficult, to say the least. And when faced with this, the only thing you had available to you was a video wall, which was basically a number of TV screens mounted together to create a large one. The issue with these screens were that not only were they still hard to see in direct sunlight, but you also had a set of grid lines interrupting the image and causing distraction. The technology behind the wall enables it to be installed to create a seamless screen, one that can cover a whole wall. This is because the screen is a modular unit, built up of interconnecting modules. More importantly, because of the micro-LED technology, which emits light directly from the screen rather than using a backlight, you can use them in broad daylight. And it's this brightness that allows us to deliver better than cinema quality images in daylit areas. And that means you can create multimodal spaces on board. These multimodal spaces are rooms that can be a fully immersive cinema, a sports bar, or just a family TV room at the press of a button, without having to shut the curtains or give up valuable space to large noisy projectors. Importantly, the screen has a life expectancy of 100,000 hours. That's just over 11 years. So the screens are not being used just for entertainment purposes, but for creating unique environments on board. These screens therefore give you, as a designer or a shipbuilder, the freedom to use the screen as an integral part of your interior design. The limitations of what you can achieve are in your own mind. We've seen the wall used in entertainment spaces, rooms where the owner and their guests can watch the big game or the family can just watch some TV. They do get used in dedicated cinemas as well. The wall offers some significant advantages over a projection system in both visual performance and spatial requirements. Wellness spaces are an emerging trend. These are rooms where the screens are used to take the user to different environments, such as during a yoga or a mindfulness session. The next stage on from here are what we call immersive gyms and sports training rooms. The emergence of online training for cycling or rowing, or even motorsport, has seen a massive uptake in larger format LED screens for these immersive gyms or training rooms. The biggest growth area we've seen is the growth in the digital art market. The rise in digital art and now the boom in non-fungible tokens has seen a massive shift into displays being used for digital art, and we are now supplying screens that people are using just for this purpose. But this art trend is only part of where these screens are used to create environments. And we're seeing dedicated individual artworks being commissioned and created for use in luxury spaces. Companies like Fusion CI Studios, whose work you can see on the screen now, are working with these screens to deliver truly exceptional experiences, both in marine and private residential. And using the wall to fill a whole wall space enables you to change the look and feel of the room at the press of a button. So, that's just a small part of what you can achieve with the wall. But let me take a moment to explain what it actually is. The screen is a micro LED screen. This means it's made up of tiny red, green and blue LEDs to make an individual pixel. Each pixel is spaced at 0.84 millimeters apart. The screen is extremely fine and has a very short viewing distance. A normal TV or projector shines a light through a sheet of coloured pixels. With the wall, each pixel is made up of 3 physical LED lights. So the images that come from it are incredibly bright, which means they don't get washed out when used in daylight, like a TV, or even worse, like a projector would. But brightness is only half the story. When we require a black area, the lights on the screen are off. And because we use a unique coating that further enhances the blacks on the screen, you get the most incredible image, one that will just take your breath away. Now, you may remember I said that the screen was modular, so let me show you how we construct it. We start with a single cabinet. This cabinet is 806 millimeters wide by 453 millimeters high. And these cabinets then get mounted to the wall like this. We start by mounting a framework to the bulkhead. We then mount the cabinets onto the frame. In the case of a marine installation, we then fasten in a small marine bracket which offers enhanced vibration protection to the screen. This is important. The wall is the only screen to have had marine installation considered as a key part of its design. Once the screen's on the wall and fastened down with the clips, we then cover the edges of the screen with a trim strip and then connect a media player via optical cabling to the screen. And that's it. It's as simple as that. So, just to recap, the wall is perfect to use in multimodal spaces. You are no longer limited to having darkened rooms for cinema level images on large format screens. You can create the perfect sports bar, family TV area or home cinema in one truly multi-purpose space. And this is because these screens can be used in daylight, and yet they still deliver incredible bright and clear images. And that's because of their micro LED technology. However, if your client does want a dedicated cinema, these screens are still a better option. They give better images and have less space requirements than a traditional projection system. The wall does also offer you more than just entertainment. These screens can be used to create unique, dramatic spaces in ways you've never been able to before. Here at Samsung, we have a full range of display options. Our The Wall family of screens come in more than just the 0.84mm pixel pitch, and we really do have a screen that will be suitable for any application you may have. So that's just a little bit about The Wall and what it can offer to you and your clients. If you do have an inquiry or need help in a project, then please reach out to myself and I will be only too happy to help. I will email my contact details to you all after the webinar finishes. Now, let me hand you over to Zeb Robin of Bond Technology Management, who's going to discuss the importance of engaging a technology management consultant. Zeb, over to you.
Hello, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Zeb Robin, and I'm the Technical Director at Bond Technology Management. For 15 years, we've been listening to yacht owners and helping them make wise decisions to ensure the technical systems on board exactly meet or exceed their expectations, both in terms of performance and in terms of budget. Just to be clear, we don't sell the hardware or build the systems. We work similar to how lawyers or architects might, typically working directly for owners and shipyards to provide a certain scope of design and management work. Our clients know they'll get impartial advice from us since our bottom line is not affected by the size of the televisions or the extravagance of the sound systems. Of course, many yacht owners do want impressive and stunning systems, but not all. We protect our customers both from the undersell and the oversell alike, as we hone in on their unique needs and expectations. But why is AVIT so important on a yacht? It might be worth starting with an old adage I learned when I first got into the yachting industry. Namely that there are only 3 things that need to work on board a yacht to make happy guests: air conditioning, working bathrooms, and television. Nowadays, the last point has transformed into the internet, of course, since so much of what we watch and listen to is now online. At first blush, some of you might not think that AVIT would make it onto the top 3 list of needs. But people feel very strongly about their favorite AV media and events. For example, many yacht owners highly value being able to socialize during their favorite sporting events and would be quite upset to miss a match. Others feel very passionately for the music in their playlists. And who doesn't relish a chance to sit with friends, family, and popcorn to enjoy a good movie? These same owners, however, also highly value a beautiful and uncompromising luxury interior. But a great AV experience doesn't need to be at the expense of a beautiful yacht. We have many tricks up our sleeves, for example, from innovative product manufacturers such as Samsung and K-Array, to balance performance and aesthetics. Indeed, this is one of the more enjoyable and challenging parts of each project: to get to work with the designers at an early stage and help realize their vision while also tastefully integrating cutting-edge AVIT technology throughout the vessel. So, okay, AVIT is important, we all get it. But why is technology management important? Well, in a nutshell, it's because many technologies are simply moving so fast. For this reason, within our company, we continuously foster a culture which thrives on the fastest-paced areas of technology, namely AV, IT, SATCOMs, security, and HVAC. These same technologies, however, are often the most bewildering to clients. This is why, to earn their keep, any top-tier consultant needs to have a large staff made up of experienced technical specialists from every field, and they must stay up to date with the state of the art. It takes a sizable pool of knowledge to be able to answer the toughest technical questions in straightforward, no-nonsense terms. Another key point is that people in our position can't ever copy and paste, because A, what we wrote yesterday will probably be obsolete tomorrow, and B, no 2 clients are ever the same. Taken together, though, what makes good technology management most important to yacht owners is the knowledge and experience which is brought to their side of the table. We are able to provide fresh, neutral advice on what today's technologies can do for clients when properly deployed, and we are able to boil down complex technical considerations into accessible nuts and bolts investment choices for yacht owners. We know what's possible, which decisions provide the best long-term return on investment, and how to ensure the systems provide a refined and polished experience that mirrors the beauty and magnitude of their superyacht. But that's not the end of it. Technology management brings more value to the table. Looking ahead to the future is also something technology managers must, of course, contend with. In our case at Bond, for example, we know our clients save money over the life of a vessel because the cabling and infrastructure is intelligently future-proofed. Furthermore, the technologies we promote have long operating lifespans and low maintenance requirements. From my personal experience, I also know that sometimes we act as technology counselors, as some clients feel they've been wronged in the past. Maybe they've had a fancy automation system which left them for days unable to turn on any lights, or a slow and buggy user interface which always acted up when the visitors were around. Maybe they had a cinema that just didn't look or sound right, or even just dodgy Wi-Fi that would drop their calls. We hear horror stories such as one client who refused to have anything but hard electrical rotary knobs to control the HVAC because too many automation systems had failed them in the past. Or here's a common one: heat. We know of a crew which needed to open up the cinema racks and point a fan into them whenever guests wanted to watch a movie. This was to prevent the heat from sending the entire system into a thermal shutdown. There was a powerful HVAC unit right on the other side of the room across the aisle, but it just couldn't do anything useful because it wasn't tied to the racks correctly, and the systems would overheat. Good technology management therefore also means sometimes helping clients to understand exactly what caused the problems of the past, and to explain how a properly built system won't suffer those same flaws. We communicate that the solution is clear, and that we can help steer system suppliers to make sure that history doesn't repeat itself. To help serve clients best, getting technology management involved quite early is important, which is why we often start our work around the time a shipyard is being selected. At this point, the designers have been working with the client to develop the vision of their new yacht, and the designer's GA is starting to be developed by the yard, who needs to start putting in place concrete design decisions. This is typically 6 months to a year before any integrators are selected, and is a key period during which sound technical input can have a very positive effect towards supporting the owners and designers, while helping ensure the shipyard's production schedule stays on track. It's also far too early to have enough solid information for integrators to produce a sensible and accurate offer. At this early stage, we typically step in to learn about the client's expectations and start working with the designers to figure out how to integrate the technical elements while avoiding negative aesthetic impacts. Many, maybe most clients have a strong sense that technology should be seen only when it's needed, and that ideally, technology should simply disappear. This is, as I said before, a very fun part of the project. In rooms where form and function require aesthetics to take priority, we work to find ways to conceal or minimize in-room devices. And when a client gives clear orders to develop a top-notch experience in a given location, we roll up our sleeves, fire up our acoustic simulation software, and help make sure the client's expectations are well understood and achieved. At the end of this early design process, the result is a detailed technical specification package, which supplies the shipyard with valuable information, and then, of course, goes out for competitive tender. The functionality described within has been approved by the client, and integrators get a fair shot at winning the contract. For many on the project, this is when much of the hard work begins. After contractors are selected, technology managers continue to be valuable by staying on the project to oversee the construction process and represent the end client. We help solve problems, provide design synchronization services, and help everyone continue towards a successful completion of the project. As the systems start to be powered on, being authors of the specifications makes us the ideal team for thoroughly testing the systems and managing the punch list phase. Using our comprehensive test plans, we push every button and test every feature until we're satisfied that they're fully finished, stable, and specification compliant. At handover and delivery, I can only speak from Bond's experience, but we actually don't often hear very much from the vessels. We of course check in with them, as it's important for us to learn how reliable and robust the systems are. We always take that information and feed it back into the beginning of the next projects. But in this business, no news is often good news, as it means the systems are doing what they're supposed to do, and the guests and crew are satisfied. To conclude, I'd like to leave you with one final observation. Designers, shipyards, and integrators all excel when they function as a balanced team, which has a healthy blend of interests and tensions. In the end, after all, when a client takes his first steps on board, they see the sum of all the parts, and we all look best when we all succeed as a team. Thank you all for listening, and now back over to you, Chris.
Thank you, Zeb. The other element of delivering great AV experiences on board is the integrator. So now I'm going to hand you over to Brian FAERBER and JEROEN DEKKER of VBH, who will discuss the importance of engaging an integrator early enough in a project to ensure your design intent can be successfully delivered, and the importance of making AV systems easy to use. Over to you, Brian.
Good day, dear audience. This is Brian FAERBER of VBH. I want to thank you for joining this webinar, and I want to thank Samsung for arranging everything. And I have the possibility to speak a little bit about my experience in yachting. I see on many projects that the owner doesn't get everything he wishes for, and that the result, the end product, is often a compromise. This is often caused by a lack of knowledge on the project, or a lack of space on the yacht, or it's a time or timing issue. Therefore, it is important that a technology company like VBH and a system integrator is involved early in the design phase. But let me introduce a little bit myself first. I have been working in the yachting industry for more than 20 years. 15 years of that with an electrical and automation company, and the last 7 years with VBH. And VBH is an AV and IT and security specialist. Let me tell you about one of my experience. For example, with Project Sigma, also known as Project SF99, now named Motoryacht A, everybody knows her. The design of the yacht is special and unique. It is how the owner and designer wanted it and envisioned it. The end product is almost identical to the concept. Everybody prioritized the realization of this design and that it became reality. And she looks amazing. The designer, Philip Stark, the owner, everybody who worked on building this yacht, shipyard, and all suppliers and contractors can be very proud. What a stunning beauty. And this yacht deserved a bridge design like this. The consultant and I wanted to equip the yacht with this bridge concept. It would have fitted the yacht beautifully. In the end, the bridge looked like this. Still nice and modern, especially for those days, but also conventional, not as special as the yacht itself. Why the difference? Well, that wasn't that difficult, but you know, the original design needed space under and after the wheelhouse. This wasn't reserved. So that's why we needed to use conventional bridge consoles. My company was not involved during design of the wheelhouse arrangement and the technical area behind it. Focus on the project was on the hull build and on the large technical systems, not on the navigation and communication. And actually, all we needed was a rearrangement of that wheelhouse and the technical room behind it. Make the wheelhouse a little smaller. It was already big enough. There was space. Increase the technical space behind the wheel console, so we would put all the technical equipment in the technical area behind it, and increase the cable corridors because we needed to have more cables between that technical space and the wheelhouse. But this was not impossible. The steelwork was already done. Okay, the outcome was still nice, but to me, it was a compromise to the design. The bridge of Motoryacht A is different than the concept, unfortunately, to my opinion. But now I want to give you an example of a project where the system integrator VBH was involved from the beginning. One of our clients wanted a game room for the kids, and after a site visit, VBH proposed the Samsung wall as screen and as the ultimate solution. To give the kids the best experience, we selected this video wall, but also it needed the best technology behind it. We had to take care of the right space reservation, for example, heating and ventilation and cooling, electricity, control, stiffness, because the yacht moves and vibrates, and also, of course, for future access for maintenance. Here you see the frame of the wall and the construction behind it, where we have built the electricity and the control system and the heating, ventilation and air conditioning behind it. And here you see that we are building up the tiles of the wall. In the end, we started commissioning it tile by tile, and here you see the beautiful result, and it's actually one big screen, and the kids could play beautifully their games on it. As the supplier, VBH, the system integrator, takes ultimate responsibility for the design, engineering, installation, and proper functioning and warranty. We are ultimately the responsible party, and we ensure the client's expectation is fulfilled, and that's why it is important we are involved in early stages of the dream, of realization of that dream. I hope I have made my point clear, and look forward to your comments and answers and questions on that. Thank you, and my colleague Jeroen DEKKER will take over. Jeroen, please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jeroen DEKKER, and I am System Architect User Experience and User Interface for VBH. I've been in software engineering for over 15 years, mostly focusing on user interface. I joined VBH 5 years ago. I'd like to show you why it is so important to have an integrator like ourselves be involved in an AV project on a yacht as soon as possible. We see that the AV systems we are building become more and more complex. We also see a trend of yacht owners and interior architects wanting to hide technology. So, how do we keep it simple and conceal stuff as much as possible? The increasing amount of technology should never be reflected in the way the system is controlled, or the way it presents itself. We once heard an owner say, "Don't make me think," and that is exactly what the interface should do. The interface should make the system usable. We also find that the technology should not be visible all the time. It should only appear when needed. The system should, so to speak, blend in, but be available instantly. And when it appears, it should create a wow effect. You want the owners to proudly show it to their friends. You could say that we are working hard to hide all the good stuff. For simple adjustments like volume or temperature, a rotating button is still preferred over a touch panel. We developed an IP67 rated rotating button with an LED touch panel, exactly for this purpose. It can be mounted on any wall, for instance inside a shower cell. So, while taking a shower, one can not only control the water temperature, but the volume or lights as well. It requires, however, a different approach in the cable layout and is mounted differently. And this has consequences for the engineering of both the AV system and the interior. Interior architects generally do not like the looks of TVs and speakers, so we try and hide them as much as possible. One way to conceal a TV is to mount it flush and have it display the print that is used on the wall surrounding it. To minimize the gap between the TV and the wall, we need to closely work together with the interior decorator, because the wall cannot be finished until we know exactly which TV will be used. And this is a real challenge, because usually it takes more time to build a yacht than to introduce a new television set. The wow effect is becoming more and more important. You want owners to proudly show their equipment to their friends. So, the way the system and its interface present themselves and work should surpass their expectations. We know it will not wow the owner forever, but it will remain a joy to use. Concealing controls in the way you see in these pictures has, however, quite some impact on the engineering. It not only touches the interior design process, but the choice for materials as well. And then there are things like cooling and maintenance to consider. The project needs integrators like VBH to point out what should be considered and decided on at the very beginning of the project, because they cannot be done in a later stage. I hope these examples showed you the importance of having the integrator involved as soon as possible in the project. Thanks for your attention, and back over to you, Chris.
Thank you, Jeroen, and thank you all for listening. If we have covered anything during today's session, the contact details of the individual contributors are on the screen now. If you would like any more details or assistance in a project, then please reach out to us. We're only too happy to help. We've had a number of questions come in on the Q&A, so we'll go over to that Q&A session now and deal with some of them. Thank you for listening to the webinar. We've had a number of questions come in through the session, and the first one that came in has come in from a shipyard in Hamburg, and it is, are K-array speakers suitable for outdoor applications? I think that must be a question for you, Daniele.
Yes, thanks for the question. And the answer is no problem. The speakers can be installed outdoor. The IP rating is 64, 65 for most speakers, and Actually, if you are planning to install them outdoor in a marine environment, the speaker can be requested in the so-called marine-proof version, where we add a special treatment to the speakers to make them resistant against not only rain and dust, but also salt, which is a very aggressive element. So yeah, outdoor applications are fine.
Fantastic. And we had another one came in during your session, which was, can we control KRA amps with Crestron and other control systems?
Yes, absolutely. And actually not just Crestron, Extron, Control 4, any control system that can send HTTP REST commands. And this is just a standard protocol nowadays. So it's very easy to integrate the amps with all the other devices on board. And we can, of course, provide the documentation with the API and all the info to control each parameter of the amps. So yeah, no problem.
Fantastic, thank you. The next question's coming from a designer based in the south of France. And it is a system integrator knowledgeable enough to act as an advisor in the early stages of a project? I think that's a question for both VBH and for Bond. So let's start with Zeb. Zeb, if we can go over to you, what's your thoughts?
That's a good question. Comes to if they're knowledgeable enough, I would say the answer is yes. Good integrators such as VBH are very knowledgeable in their fields of expertise. Some clients, however, they would prefer to get their advice from a neutral party who is not involved in the sale, and that's where Bond comes in and helps out a little more directly.
Cool. And Brian, what's your thoughts on that?
I agree with Seb. Thank you for the question, by the way. I 100% agree with Seb. The thing is, some system integrators are more an installation company, and then you have a little bit lack of knowledge there. And if the client doesn't have enough knowledge also, then you know it's a disaster waiting to happen. So a company like Bond can add a lot of knowledge, and a company like VBH, which is also a technology company, can add a lot of knowledge. And we have a lot of clients who already know what kind of innovation they want and what kind of technology they are looking for. And either a company like Bond or VBH can have a lot of added value early in the stage of a project, because what we all want to do is that the client who's paying a lot of money for building his yacht and sailing his yacht, that he gets the most optimum experience. And I think you need knowledge and a good solution and a proper installation to have that maximum experience for the client.
Okay, so you mentioned about being engaged early enough, and Brian, that takes us on to another question that's come in from a shipyard in Holland, which was, everybody's talked about how important it is to be engaged early. So what in your experience have you seen happen when you're not engaged at an early stage?
It is like my presentation. It will show you that sometimes then the client or the consultant or the designer has a certain idea, but the project is already in such a phase that it cannot be realized because you have all these limitations of, you know, the build of the yacht, of the design of the yacht. And if you don't incorporate the right parameters, then you're not able to install and integrate the right solutions. I can give you an example. If you, for example, have an interactive elevator, which we have installed on a boat, that was an idea of the designer from the beginning. If that wasn't taken into account when they chose the yacht builder, the yard, they would never have taken all these things into account to realize this idea of the designer and of the owner. And that's really unfortunate, because then we can't create these signature pieces we want to build for our clients.
Okay. And have you seen similar things happening, Zeb?
Yeah, absolutely. We're pulled in, I think, typically probably earlier than VBH actually. The projects Bond is involved in, we tend to be pulled in 6 months to a year before the integrators are contacted. So we get to really work directly with the designers quite a bit and get involved in the early planning to see if the owner wants to follow through with his wild dreams and special things like interactive elevators, or see if he wants to maybe focus his energies elsewhere. In the end, though, our goal is always very similar on these projects. It's to develop the requirements of the client up to the point where we can then hand them over to a company like VBH to work up an actual detailed offer. We give them something concrete that they can go bid on.
Perfect. So another question that's come in is, what are the biggest challenges for a system integrator during the design phase? And they've added a bit on the end, which was, how would you handle multiple languages? So I think that's a question more for Brian and certainly for JEROEN in terms of user interfaces. Brian, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Good question. Biggest challenge is often time. Although it takes a long time to build a yacht, it's also taking a long time to create all the ideas. And one idea is not enough. We always have to look at what are the alternatives, what are the possible solutions and dreams and ideas the project team has. And sometimes you have to work out maybe 10 ideas before you can pick the right one. So time is a problem. Also, a big issue is the budget, the financial budget, because all this time cost a lot of hours, and hours, they cost time, and that, you know, if you want to work out all these ideas, you need to fund that in a proper way. And I see that as a huge problem, because people don't realize how much time is getting involved, and we get squeezed into a couple of months. And I think SET also experiences that from Bond, although they are involved very often. And I think VBH, and maybe in combination with a Bond or with other consultants, should be involved earlier. That's really my honest opinion.
Cool. And then in terms of the how you handle multiple languages, JEROEN, is that something you do, or is that something you have to consider?
We consider it and we do it, but well, like I said in my presentation, the graphical user interface shouldn't raise the least amount of questions to the owner. But there is always the need for labels or captions. And one way of doing it is by adding a language selection menu, and the owner can then select a different language, and all labels and captions will change language. It's based on an underlying database with languages. Another approach is to make use of icons that make the most sense to the majority of people. But then we also have to keep in mind that icons might mean something different in different cultures. For instance, the thumbs up icon. I think Daniele can confirm that the thumbs up in Italy means something completely different than what it means over here in the Netherlands.
Very true.
Most of the time we use both of them, both icons and words captions.
Okay, thank you, Brian, and thank you, JEROEN. That's great. One that's come in from a designer in Hamburg, close to USAB, which is it's fairly clear how customers can benefit from Bond services, but do manufacturers and integrators see any benefits when a technology management consultant is involved in the design stage and the project build or refit?
Thanks for the question. That's a pretty good one. I think the answer is definitely yes. One of the key things we do for integrators and manufacturers and builders and shipyards is we work with the owners to set clear objectives and requirements. So when all those suppliers, they know they've done their job completely, and they're going to make the client happy, invoices paid, and move on to the next project. That's a very tangible way we help everybody in the production cycle of a new yacht.
Brilliant. We had a couple more questions come in. one from a designer based in the UK, which was asking, you showed the screen being used on the ceiling of a yacht. Can you do that with the wall? Well, the answer is yes. And actually now with the latest iteration of the wall, any projects that you're designing for in the future, you'll be able to install the wall onto the ceilings, but also install the wall as a curved screen with on board. So the options now for you with screens are even more open. And as I said in the presentation, what's capable to be done really sometimes is in your own imagination. And then the last question that we've got in front of us has come in again from another designer, and that says, I have a build where this will be perfect. How do we get to show the owner's team one of the screens? Really simple, depends where they're based. So we have showrooms dotted around Europe, but the most accessible for most people within the marine industry is the showroom that we have in Monaco, which is what we call the luxury living lounge. And you, the client's team, and anybody else that's engaged in that can go down there, have a look at the screen, experience it, show the client, understand the technology, and run through that with our team that's down there. If you do want to use any of those showrooms, then please reach out to myself and I'll arrange for a visit for you. And that's it. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for watching the webinar. Thank you, gentlemen, for giving your time to give us all your excellent presentations. And hopefully we'll see you again soon. Take care.
You're welcome, Chris.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.